Billionaire discovers an incredible bond as his son finds a hidden hero in a remarkable cleaner. Charles Harrington had it all. The sprawling mansion in an elite suburb of New York was a monument to his success. Lavish parties echoed with laughter and clinking glasses, but inside, his heart had grown cold, dulled by the weight of material wealth. His 16-year-old son, Ethan, roamed the halls like a ghost, feeling more isolated with every extravagant gala. The boy craved his father's attention, but to Charles, success and status took priority over the tender connections that were slipping away, unnoticed. One crisp autumn afternoon, while walking through their perfectly manicured neighborhood, Ethan encountered Maria. A cleaner with a gentle smile, she transformed dull offices into spaces that sparkled with warmth, each swipe of her mop a reminder of her struggles and sacrifices. She worked tirelessly to support her 2 children, knowing well the weight of hardship after her husband returned from war, changed forever by his injuries. Maria's laughter hid the burdens she carried, as she shared her stories of hope and resilience with Ethan, awakening a sense of empathy in him that had lain dormant for too long. Ethan listened, wide-eyed, to her tales of a dream once chased, a dream of nursing, a life dedicated to care and kindness. Marie's unwavering spirit stood in stark contrast to the rigid expectations Charles pushed upon him, fueling Ethan's yearning for connection and meaning. He felt alive when talking to Maria, experiencing a depth of emotion he never shared with his father. Charles, engrossed in his world of business deals and public appearances, brushed off Ethan's new passion as a fleeting phase, unaware of the boy's deepening understanding of life's realities. As the community faced a crisis, Maria organized a charity event to support struggling veterans and their families. A noble endeavor that highlighted the often invisible heroes. It brought hope and unity to a divided neighborhood. However, a mishap, an offhand comment from Charles caught on camera, revealed his prejudices, igniting outrage among the community members. Suddenly, the facade of wealth shattered, exposing him to the stark realities his money had shielded him from. Ethan, filled with disappointment and anger, confronted his father. "How can you look at people like Maria and see only a cleaner? She's so much more." It was a moment charged with raw emotion, one that forced Charles to reflect deeply. He could no longer ignore the connection his son had forged with someone who embodied strength, resilience, and sacrifice. The emotional distance between father and son reached a climax, leaving them raw and vulnerable. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. In the aftermath of the event, Charles began to see Maria not just as a cleaner but as a pillar of strength. As they both confronted their differences, a flicker of understanding ignited in Charles. Could he learn to see past the wealth that blinded him? And could Ethan guide him toward a brighter, more connected future? As they stared out at the community, still reeling from the chaos, a chance for reconciliation hung in the air, a thread connecting them all. Would they seize this opportunity and reshape not only their lives but the fabric of their community and its unsung heroes? The morning after the scandal broke, the sun shined brightly, filling the Harrington mansion with golden light. But inside, the air felt tense. Charles sat at the grand dining table, the untouched breakfast spread before him, a stark contrast to the whirlpool of emotions swirling in his mind. He couldn't shake off the chaos of yesterday. The disapproval in Ethan's eyes played like a haunting melody in his thoughts. Ethan, who had always sought his father's approval, now felt like a stranger in his own home. He paced the bedroom walls, contemplating how to bridge the gaping chasm that had opened between them. How could he make his father see the beauty in people like Maria? He had gained a new sense of purpose, determined to challenge the narrow views that once bound both him and Charles. When Charles finally emerged from his thoughts, he decided to visit Maria. He didn't want to admit it, but part of him was desperate to understand her world. The memory of her laughter, infused with warmth and strength, lingered in his mind. Charles felt an unfamiliar tug at his heart, an inkling of wanting to change. As he approached the local community center where Maria worked, a knot tightened in his stomach. A small crowd gathered, buzzing with shared stories and laughter. He felt like an outsider in this vibrant atmosphere. Yet, as he stepped through the doors, a wave of curiosity washed over him. Maria stood at the front, her eyes bright with determination as she coordinated a group of volunteers. She looked up and spotted Charles. For a moment, time froze. Charles was struck by the authenticity radiating from her. Was this what he had been missing all along, a connection free from judgment and expectation? "Mr. Harrington," she greeted him, her tone neutral but not unkind. "What brings you here?" I wanted to talk," he stumbled, the weight of his words pressing heavily on his chest. Maria gestured for him to join her at the side. He hesitated but finally approached, fighting the urge to retreat. "I need to understand. Why do you do this?" he asked, nodding towards the group working diligently. A smile spread across Maria's face, revealing a pride that moved him. "They're not just names or faces to me. They're stories. Their struggles are real. I've seen it every day, and it drives me to help however I can." Charles felt a flicker of something within him, a blend of shame and admiration. The vulnerability he owned as a father clashed with the pride he had built as a businessman. "I think I judged too quickly." She raised an eyebrow but didn't comment. Instead, she offered him a chance to roll up his sleeves and join her in the work. Reluctantly, Charles took a step towards the group surrounded by laughter and shared experiences. As he helped pack care boxes, doing something tangible for the first time in a long while, he glanced over at Maria. Her laugh filled the space between them, lifting something heavy from his heart. Later that day, as they finished, Maria looked at him with genuine concern. "Do you really want to change, Mr. Harrington? To see more than what's in front of you?" "More than anything," he replied, the truth spilling from his lips. What began as a journey of self-reflection turned into something deeper. That evening, as he returned to the mansion, a renewed purpose blossomed within him. He wanted to reconnect not only with Ethan but with his own heart. But was it too late? Would Ethan embrace this change, or would their rift widen, drawing shadows over any hope of reparation? The next few days lay before him, uncertain yet imbued with potential. As the sun set behind the Manhattan skyline, Charles reflected on his choices. He knew he was standing on the precipice of a new chapter, not just for himself, but for his son and for Maria, the heart of this awakening. And just as he contemplated his next steps, a text message chimed in his pocket. It was from Ethan, a single question that sent a shiver down his spine. "Dad, can we talk about Maria?" The next morning felt different. The usual chaos of the Harrington mansion was muffled, as if the world outside had quieted in anticipation. Charles found himself pacing the halls, his mind a canvas splattered with anxiety and hope. Ethan's message from the night before pulsated at the forefront. "Dad, can we talk about Maria?" He pulled out his phone and stared at it, fingers hovering over the screen. Should he reply or wait for Ethan to come to him? Just yesterday, he had been standing in that crowded community center, feeling a warmth from Maria's energy that lit up corners of his heart he thought long closed. But today, uncertainty filled him. Could he truly find a way to connect with Ethan through this woman who stirred his own heart? The sound of footsteps broke his reverie. He turned to see Ethan walking into the living room, his face drawn, but steady. Charles could read the tension in his son's posture, and it struck him how much they were mirroring each other's uncertainty. "Dad," Ethan started, his voice cracking slightly before he took a deep breath. "I want to talk about Maria." "Me too," Charles replied, swallowing hard. He gestured toward the plush sofas, and they settled into their seats, the distance between them feeling echoingly vast. Ethan hesitated, picking at the sleeve of his hoodie, before looking straight into Charles's eyes. "It's not just about the work she does, you know. She's real, Dad. She sees people. She cares about them." "I know," Charles said, surprising even himself with the conviction in his voice. "I saw it yesterday. The way she interacts with everyone, it's contagious. She makes you want to be better. Ethan's expression shifted, hope mingling with concern. Do you really mean that? Or is it just another phase? Charles paused, a whirlwind of emotions tangling inside him. He thought of Maria's laughter, how it seemed to cut through the barriers in his heart, even as he had built them up for years. I'm figuring it out, Ethan. I want to understand more about people like her and why this work matters. Because it matters, Dad, Ethan pressed, leaning forward. These people need someone to fight for them. I never imagined you'd feel that way. His voice faltered, you were always so disconnected. I've been blind, Charles admitted, his voice softer, almost a whisper. Blind to so much. And lately, I've been questioning everything about my life, my choices, even my relationship with you. Ethan's gaze softened, revealing the flicker of a tentative bridge forming between them, but still frail. What if you really gave Maria a chance? What if you tried to connect like I'm trying to? I want to, Charles said, a wave of earnestness washing over him. But it's scary, Ethan. I don't want to make it worse. Ethan's eyes studied him for a moment, weighing his words. You can start small. Just give her a real chance. Spend time with her. Ask what drives her. Maybe you can both learn from each other. The idea settled heavily in the air, the prospect filled with both anxiety and a strange thrill. Charles felt a surge of determination. You're right. It's time I stop just hoping for change and start making it happen. Good, Ethan nodded, a hint of relief flickering through his furrowed brow. But we need to talk to her together. You can't just dive in blind. As they both relaxed slightly in the moment, a new excitement filled Charles. Maybe, just maybe, he could find a connection not just with Maria, but also with Ethan, a path to healing their strained relationship, starting from their shared admiration for a woman who saw light in places others ignored. With the heaviness of yesterday gradually lifting, a voice rang through the silence, the housekeeper peeking around the corner. Gentlemen, breakfast is ready. Let us eat. And then we can make a plan, Ethan said, a grin breaking through the seriousness that had hung over them. As they walked towards the dining room, Charles couldn't shake the feeling that he was taking a leap of faith. Would Maria and Ethan accept the man he was striving to become? And, as they stepped into the sun-drenched kitchen, a deeper question lingered in Charles's heart. Could vulnerability be the key to rebuilding their broken bond, or were the shadows of the past too daunting to overcome? Breakfast filled the dining room with warm aromas and soft laughter. The sun poured in through the large windows, spilling light across the polished table where Charles and Ethan sat. Still, the joy around them felt distant, like a scene through a fogged window. Charles watched his son, who was animatedly relaying a funny story about one of the community members they'd met at the center. Yet, beneath Ethan's animated chatter, Charles could sense the anticipation. They were both grappling with the same thrilling possibility, reaching out to Maria. And then Mr. Thompson tried to sell her a faulty product. Can you believe that? Ethan chuckled between bites of toast, his eyes sparkling with that youthful eagerness. Sounds like she handled it well, Charles replied, but even as he said it, he felt the edges of his own discomfort mingle with pride for Ethan. His son was blossoming, forging connections where there were none before. Dad, I really think you'd like her, Ethan said, wiping his mouth clean. She's not just smart and caring, she's also funny and real. You'd respect her. Respect is a start, Charles replied, his tone light but the weight on his chest heavy. He picked at the wilted edge of a pancake, his mind racing ahead of him. But what do I even say? What if she thinks I'm just some rich guy looking to play savior, and she brushes me off? Just be honest, Ethan encouraged. You value what she's doing. Maybe tell her that directly. Ask her about her dreams. Show her you want to understand. Charles nodded slowly, the idea of letting Maria in beginning to take shape. Her world felt open and vibrant, a stark contrast to the confines he'd imposed upon himself for so many years. But vulnerability came slowly for him, it felt like dipping a toe into icy waters. As breakfast wrapped up, the housekeeper cleared their plates, and Ethan's determination shifted. "I'm serious, Dad. Do you want me to call her? Set something up?" "Let us wait," Charles replied. "We should talk about this together first." He felt the weight of his son's gaze upon him, practically urging him forward. The vulnerability of sharing his own transformation, of letting go of the past, that was what scared him. Maybe this was the moment to be boldly honest. "Ethan," Charles started, glancing at the walls filled with framed accomplishments, all echoing the man he had been. "I want to connect with her. I do. But I'm worried. What if I'm not enough?" Ethan's expression softened, a mixture of surprise and understanding. "You think she wants perfection? She wants connection, Dad. Just like me." Charles took a deep breath, the weight of truth anchoring him. "We'll invite her for coffee then. Maybe after we volunteer again this week." Ethan beamed, the remnants of worry fading. "Yeah. That's perfect. You've got this." A grin broke through Charles's apprehension, the excitement of a new plan coursing through him. But just as quickly, fear seeped back. What if he failed? Later that day, as Charles prepared for the volunteering session, he spotted Ethan lost in thought, doodling in a notepad. The teenage boy seemed so grown up, grappling with big ideas and trying to bridge the gap between father and son. "Hey, what are you thinking about?" Charles asked, stepping closer. Ethan looked up, a hint of a frown on his forehead. "Just, what if she's not as excited to meet you? What if I messed up by asking you to reach out?" Charles leaned back, the sudden unease mirrored in his son's eyes. "What if she doesn't want to connect? But maybe next time, we'll know if she feels the same pull. Or what if she changes everything?" Ethan suggested, a spark igniting between them. The prospects felt limitless. But uncertainty lingered, hovering heavily, and Charles found himself questioning not just his potential relationship with Maria but also this renewed bond with Ethan. Could they move towards something deeper, not just with her but also as a family? As they drove to the community center, the sun beginning to set in a blaze of orange and purple, Charles felt a swell of hope. Perhaps this was how they would break free from the shadows of past mistakes. And perhaps, in that moment of uncertainty, he was beginning to see not just Maria, but also a path for himself. But as the building came into view, a thought struck him with unexpected intensity: would they ever truly understand each other? Or would this leap into the unknown leave them stranded? He couldn't shake the feeling that this journey was just beginning. The community center buzzed with energy as Charles and Ethan entered, the lively chatter of volunteers and the warmth of camaraderie washing over them. Charles took a moment to soak it all in. This was a stark contrast from the pristine isolation of his house. Here, amidst all these faces, he felt a flicker of belonging, a sense of purpose lingering just out of reach. Ethan waved to a few friends as they made their way to the supplies table. Charles couldn't help but notice how easily his son navigated this environment, chatting and laughing, a shining beacon of youthful passion. "Hey, Dad!" Ethan called, waving him over. Charles walked to where Ethan stood with Maria, who was busy sorting through stack after stack of neatly folded clothes. "Carlos! Nice to see you again," Maria said, looking up with that warm, inviting smile that always made his heart flutter. "Hi, Maria," he replied, feeling his shoulders relax a little as their eyes met. "I was just telling Ethan I'd like to help out more here." "Oh, really?" Maria raised an eyebrow, her smile widening. "That's great. We could always use an extra set of hands." The way she looked at him, with genuine enthusiasm, made his heart quicken. The previous doubts began to wane. Maybe this was the moment he could step out of his carefully crafted world and really engage. "You're going to love it," Ethan chimed in, his voice dripping with excitement. "We're working on changing some of the spaces and turning them into cozy areas for families." "Sounds like fun," Charles replied, surprised at how quickly the nerves faded at the prospect of being part of it all. As the three of them began sorting donations, laughter spilled into the corners of the room, weaving together friendships and stories. Charles glanced over at Ethan, grateful for the way his son bridged the gap between him and Maria. They shared a keen sense of admiration between them, each one recognizing the strength in the other. Maria hesitated for a moment, her expression shifting into something more serious. "You know, Charles, it's not just about volunteering. It's about making real connections with people who need support. That's what your son gets." Her words struck Charles deeply. In that instant, he realized that this wasn't merely about charity. This was about forming bonds, about discovering one's purpose through the lives they touched. His instinct sparked, it was a feeling he couldn't ignore. "Absolutely," Charles replied. "And I think connecting with people is what I've been missing." Maria nodded, understanding flickering in her eyes. "It takes courage to step out of our comfort zones. It's where the magic happens, though." Charles gazed into her deep hazel eyes, a spark igniting within him. The vulnerability she spoke of wasn't just a path forward for him, it resonated deeply with his son as well. They were navigating their own journey, together. As the afternoon wore on, laughter erupted between the trio, punctuating moments of quiet bonding with shared stories. But he couldn't help noticing Ethan whispering to some of his friends, glancing back at him and Maria, eyes bright with excitement. He felt a sinking realization tugging at him. "What if this doesn't go the way I hope?" he thought, feeling the weight of vulnerability again. When the session wrapped up, Ethan was buzzing with energy, leaning over as they packed things away. "Did you see? You're totally into it," he said, cheeks flushed with glee. Charles laughed, the sound light yet tinged with the remnants of doubt. "Maybe it is starting to feel like home." Before he could get lost too deep in thought, Maria approached them. "I hope you'll join us next week," she said, her sincerity evident. "There's a lot we can do together." Charles opened his mouth to reply, but the words caught in his throat. Did he dare to take that leap? Could he truly understand what connection meant? Would the bond they were beginning to forge affect their lives forever? As the two shared a glance, the air crackled with unspoken possibilities. "Next week," he finally agreed, stepping closer to the edge of his fears. Ethan squeezed his shoulder. "This is just the beginning." And with those words echoing in the air, Charles felt a shift. A new chapter was unfolding, yet deep within him stirred an unsettling question: would he have the strength to leap when it truly mattered? The following week arrived quicker than Charles anticipated. The morning sun streamed through his window, illuminating the remnants of doubt lingering in his heart. He hesitated as he pulled on his shirt, the fabric brushing against his skin like a reminder of all that was new and uncertain. "Are you ready, Dad?" Ethan's voice echoed from downstairs, a mixture of excitement and encouragement. It jolted him from his thoughts, and Charles took a deep breath. Today was another chance to embrace this new path alongside his son. As they entered the community center, the familiar buzz of voices and laughter welcomed them, just as it had the week before. Ethan dashed off to meet his friends, leaving Charles standing at the threshold, a bit more at ease yet still tethered to his thoughts. "Charles!" Maria's voice rang out, slicing through his moment of hesitation. She approached with that same infectious smile, her warmth wrapping around him. "You came back." "Of course," he replied, matching her enthusiasm even as uncertainty pinched at the corners of his smile. "I wouldn't miss it." "Great. We have a big project today. We're transforming the garden area into a play zone for the kids." She motioned outside, where a handful of volunteers were gathering soil, paint, and laughter. Charles nodded, a flicker of confidence igniting inside him. He liked the sound of that, a space for children to explore. "What can I do to help?" With quick instructions and a playful tease about his gardening skills, Maria set him up with a group of teens. They seemed to radiate energy, each one bubbling with ideas and collaborative spirit. Charles felt a sense of belonging grow as they started laying down grass seed and painting a whimsical mural on an old fence. The hours passed in a whirl of laughter, paint splatters, and dirt street tans. Charles looked over to see Ethan deep in conversation with his friends, the same infectious joy radiating from him as he recounted stories from last week's activities. Charles couldn't help but smile. This was the kind of moment he had yearned to share with his son. "Looking good, Mr. Gardening Expert," a voice called, breaking his reverie. It was one of the teenagers, arms crossed and a playful smirk on his face. "Just trying to keep up with you all," Charles replied, chuckling as a sprinkle of paint landed on his cheek. As they continued their work, Maria came by, a few paint brushes in hand. "I need your artistic sensibilities," she teased, nudging him. Together, they painted colorful flowers, clouds, and suns, their laughter blending with the cheerful noise around them. "This is beautiful," she said, stepping back to admire the emerging mural. The sunlight caught the vibrant colors, making the whole area seem alive. "Not bad for a beginner," Charles replied, filled with a sense of pride. Maria met his gaze, seriousness flickering in her eyes. "This place really is about more than just giving back, isn't it? It's bringing people together, it's about joy." Charles paused, absorbing her words. He could almost hear the echoes of his heart, the shifting emotions battling within fear and hope, longing and belonging. Just then, he noticed Ethan laughing with a group of kids, his face lit up with pure happiness. He realized that every brush stroke shared with Maria, every laugh shared with the teens, was a reminder of the connection he had been missing all along. As the day wound down, exhaustion settled in, but it felt good, satisfying, real. The garden area hummed with life, ready to be a hub of joy for families. "Next week's going to be just as fun. You'll come again, right?" Ethan asked, shining brighter than the sun. "Absolutely," Charles replied, the promise solidifying in his chest. As they cleaned up, a thought hit Charles like a wave. He hadn't just found a place to help, he had stumbled upon a community that felt like family. But just as that warm realization sank in, a distant figure emerged in the alleyway, quietly watching everyone at work. Charles furrowed his brow, curiosity and concern taking root. "Who is that?" he wondered, sensing an untold story brewing just out of sight. With the excitement of the day still buzzing in the air, a question lingered: who might this stranger be, and how would their presence impact the connections he was beginning to cherish? The next week arrived, carrying with it the lingering thrill from last weekend's activities. Charles woke with a sense of anticipation that had replaced the earlier uncertainty. The community center had become a new haven, a canvas for hope painted with laughter, sweat, and shared purpose. "Ready for another adventure, Dad?" Ethan called, bouncing down the stairs, his voice a melody of excitement. "Always," Charles replied, ruffling Ethan's hair as they stepped outside, the morning air crisp and fresh. The memory of last week's connection buzzed between them, making the world feel a little brighter. Once they arrived at the center, the vibrant energy from the previous week washed over Charles again. He spotted Maria at the entrance, her enthusiasm infectious. "You're just in time. We're about to start prepping for the big community picnic next weekend." Charles felt that flicker of confidence ignite again. "What can I do to help?" he asked, the words spilling out more naturally now. Maria smiled, motioning toward a group of volunteers assembling tables and decorations. "You're going to help us turn this place into a true celebration. Bring some creativity to the table, literally." As they worked together, Charles noticed something strange. The figure he had spotted last week was lingering by the edge of the community center, watching from the shadows with a keen gaze. The worry creased Charles's brow, curiosity bubbling beneath the surface. "Is everything okay?" Maria asked, noticing the change in his demeanor. Yeah. Just that person over there," Charles gestured, and Maria turned her head, squinting into the sunlight. "Sometimes people just stop by to see what we're doing. They might be curious or just looking for something," Maria explained, shrugging. "It's all part of the community." Feeling reassured, Charles focused on the task at hand. They stripped colorful fabric from old chairs and draped them over tables, transforming the mundane into festive. Each knot tied into the fabric echoed his growing affinity for this place. As he arranged the decorations, Ethan ran over, excitement swirling in his blue eyes. "Dad! Can I help with the games for the picnic?" "Absolutely. That sounds amazing." Charles's heart swelled with pride. Seeing Ethan eager to contribute made the effort feel worthwhile. The day whirled by in a blur of joyful chaos. They painted signs, prepared food, and shared stories, laughter reverberating through the air. For the first time in ages, Charles felt the weight of loneliness lift. He was part of something bigger than himself, but that stranger remained, subtly shifting in the background. Charles glimpsed the figure several more times as the day went on, each appearance igniting a spark of concern. Who were they? What were they after? In the midst of this whirlwind, a sudden commotion broke out near the entrance. Children squealing in delight, their faces lit up with glee as they gathered around something unknown. Charles's heart raced as he made his way over, feeling a nagging tension rise. In the center of the curious circle stood the stranger, a tall man with an unassuming demeanor. He was activating a weathered yet vibrant set of juggling balls, delighting the kids with his skilled performance. Laughter erupted, bright and carefree, blending into the fabric of the day. Ethan's eyes sparkled with admiration. "Look at him, Dad. He's amazing." Although the joy floating through the air made Charles's anxiety fade, his instincts remained alert. What was the man's story? The mystery unfolded before him, urging him to learn more. As the kids cheered and roared for more, Charles felt the warmth of connection, the one he had missed for too long. The stranger was somehow weaving himself into the community fabric, a bold stitch that could change everything. That he glanced at Ethan and saw the admiration on his son's face. It was evident, the boy seemed to sense the magic happening. "Let us get closer," Charles said, his heart pounding with anticipation. But just as he took a step forward, the man locked eyes with him, a flicker of recognition in his gaze. There was something profound there, a hint of a shared past or perhaps a story waiting to unfold. Charles's breath hitched. What lay behind those eyes? Would this unexpected encounter unveil deeper connections, or would it unravel the very threads he was beginning to cherish? The picnic was mere days away, and with uncertainty looming, Charles could sense an adventure on the horizon, one that could change everything. Charles stood frozen for a moment, captivated by the intensity in the stranger's eyes. There was a piercing familiarity, like a long-lost memory flickering to life. His heart raced, fueled by curiosity and an undercurrent of unease. This man was not just a passerby, he felt important. Before he could even think, Ethan tugged at his sleeve, eager to join the throng of excited children. "Come on, Dad. Let us see what he's gonna do next." With a deep breath to quell his apprehension, Charles followed his son, walking into the joyful chaos. The stranger, still expertly tossing the juggling balls through the air, caught sight of Ethan's enthusiasm and smiled, a genuine smile that warmed the chilly air. "Do you want to try?" the man asked, crouching down to Ethan's level, pausing his act. Ethan's eyes were wide with disbelief. "Really? Me? Absolutely. Here, let me show you how it's done." The man handed Ethan a ball, his voice smooth and inviting. Charles watched, something stirring in him. It was a simple act, but it felt profound. Ethan took the ball with trembling hands, and slowly, the stranger guided him through the motions of juggling, his laughter and encouragement wrapping around them like a soft blanket. Suddenly the tension that had coiled within Charles loosened. He realized the man was not just a stranger, he was a catalyst for joy, weaving bonds that surpassed any worries Charles held on to. The crowd encircled them, erupting in cheers each time Ethan tossed a ball and managed to catch it again. In that moment, Charles saw his son shine, a bright star in a constellation of familiar faces, friends, neighbors, and perfect strangers, all captivated by this connection. "See, Dad. I'm doing it." Ethan squealed, the pride radiating from him was infectious. As the performance continued, the man spun and danced, with Ethan joining in, captivated by each juggled catch. For the first time in a long while, Charles felt a swell of something unfamiliar hope, but still, that lingering question gnawed at him. Who was this man? Why was he here? The deflection of his curiosity almost made him dizzy. Each answer he sought drifted further away like a balloon in the sky. When the performance ended, the man bowed gracefully, the laughter and applause echoing around them. He stood tall and beaming, taking it all in. The moment, though joyous, had an air of unsolved mysteries, echoing in everyone's laughter. Ethan ran up to him, practically vibrating with excitement. You were amazing. Can you teach me more? Sure thing, buddy. I can show you some real tricks next time too. The stranger's eyes twinkled, and a bond seemed to solidify in the air between them. Next time. Charles blurted out almost instinctively. The stranger turned to him. Of course, I'd love to come back. We might have some fun ahead of us. The invitation hung in the air, promising connection but also carrying the weight of unanswered questions. Could this man be trusted? As much as Charles wanted to embrace the warmth of this newfound bond for himself and for Ethan, his instincts whispered caution. This community, with all its new relationships, had begun to feel like something worth fighting for. But the unknown was still looming like a shadow on the horizon. Who are you? Charles finally asked, the question wrestling with the uncertainty swirling inside him. The stranger's eyes deepened, holding a world of stories, a mere smile forming at the corners of his mouth. I'm just a guy who loves to make people smile. But maybe there's more to it than that. He trailed off, the glimmer of something unspoken lighting up his eyes. Charles felt the pulse of anticipation. What did that mean? What kind of story was waiting to unfold? As Ethan beamed at the man, his newfound hero, Charles's heart raced at what lay ahead. Was he ready to dive deeper into this unexpected connection? Would it lead to the answers he sought, or would it unveil new challenges? The sound of laughter and joy echoed around them, shadows pulsing with possibility. The picnic was just days away. Time was running out, and an adventure beckoned, filled with twists waiting to be discovered. Charles couldn't shake the feeling that this moment was pivotal. Watching Ethan's laughter echo through the park, he felt a fierce protectiveness mix with an undeniable urge to let go, or at least to let something new enter their world. This man, this juggler, had kissed away the shadow that had hung over their little family ever since Jamie left. The warmth in Charles's chest was almost foreign, like trying on a forgotten coat that fit just right. Dad! Can you try? Ethan called, still enveloped in jubilation. Charles chuckled as he approached, feeling a lightness take hold of him. I don't know if I can juggle. You might just end up with a broken nose. Come on, just one. Ethan insisted, wide-eyed and radiant with confidence, a stark contrast to the hesitation that often weighed down Charles's heart. The stranger stepped aside, an encouraging nod urging Charles forward. He felt the crowd's collective gaze, a warmth wrapping around him like a hug. Taking a deep breath, he accepted a juggle ball, amused at how disoriented it felt in his hand. He tossed it lightly, and to everyone's surprise, it barely made it a foot into the air before he lunged awkwardly to catch it. Laughter erupted, but it was mixed with good-hearted praise. Not too shabby. The stranger called, laughter in his voice as he clapped. Charles felt the tension in his shoulders ease further. Encouragement scattered like seeds around him. Maybe this was what they needed, a day unshackled from yesterday's hardships, laughter flowing deep and abundant like a river. He caught the ball again, this time with a little more grace, and he couldn't help but smile, yet behind the smiles, the questions loomed larger. The stranger's enigmatic past, his sudden arrival into their lives, and that whisper of impact he might hold. As the performance wrapped up, the crowd gradually dispersed, families merged into one another with soft goodbyes and bright waves. Ethan clung to the stranger. Can I meet you again? Like, really soon? Absolutely. The man knelt down, sharing an earnest moment with Ethan, and for a second, Charles felt the world narrow, the magic of their connection palpable. How about a special lesson right before the picnic? We can turn it into a big surprise. Ethan's eyes widened. Really? Awesome. The stranger glanced at Charles, a silent question lingering. Charles weighed his options. Did he dare open up their world to a man he barely knew? Yet here was Ethan, bubbling over with excitement, ready to trust and leap into the unknown. All right, how about it? Charles felt the words slip out before he could think. Just no circus animals, okay? Ha! You got it. The man grinned, a boyish spark dancing in his eyes. As they walked away, Ethan bouncing in glee, Charles eyed the stranger from the corner, heart pounding with mixed feelings. Thank you for everything today, he said. Hey, I just showed a kid a good time. Promise me one thing, though. What's that? Let go a little more. Life's too short to overthink it. The man's gaze was knowing, piercing through the uncertainty Charles felt. Charles swallowed, considering those words. Was he really ready for that? To let his guard down? To let joy back in? Suddenly, behind him, the children's laughter echoed again. Intangible hope began to flicker. Maybe there was magic to be found in this unexpected friendship, but as they walked home, a nagging thought clung to Charles. The stranger's unspoken past hung there, waiting for a chance to surface. Would it be a boon to their lives or a curse? The picnic was approaching, and the stakes were rising. What secrets might surface, and could he truly ignore the storm gathering just beyond the horizon? The morning of the picnic dawned clear and bright, the sun casting a golden glow over the community center as Charles and Ethan arrived. Charles felt a palpable buzz of excitement and was reminded of the warmth that had emerged in their lives since he took the leap to embrace his vulnerability. Today was more than just a community gathering. It was a chance to solidify the bonds that had formed around them. Ethan practically bounced from foot to foot, his energy infectious. Dad, look at all the decorations. Isn't it amazing? His eyes sparkled, reflecting the colorful banners swaying in the gentle breeze. It really is, Charles replied, a smile breaking across his face as he took in the transformed space. Laughter filled the air, and a sense of belonging swirled around them like a welcome embrace. As they stepped inside, Charles spotted Maria, directing volunteers with her signature enthusiasm. He felt a surge of gratitude toward her. She had opened his eyes to the beauty of connection and the importance of recognizing the heroes within their community. Hey, Maria! He called out, waving. She spun around, her face lighting up. Charles! Ethan! She rushed over, her energy infectious. Are you ready to have some fun? Absolutely! Ethan shouted, his excitement bubbling over. As they chatted, Charles felt a subtle shift in the air as the mystery stranger from previous weeks approached. Charles's heart raced again, a mix of anticipation and reticence. The man looked different today, dressed in vibrant colors that matched the festival atmosphere, but yet still emanated an aura of intrigue. Hey there, Ethan. The man said, kneeling to catch the boy's eye. Ready for more juggling tricks? Yes. Ethan responded eagerly, swinging his arms with enthusiasm. Charles took a deep breath, mustering the courage to engage. Could you please tell us your name? He asked, his curiosity boiling over. The man straightened and smiled wide, revealing genuine warmth. I'm Jake, just a guy who believes in the joy shared through laughter. So why the juggling? Charles ventured, leaning in, wanting to ensure his son's admiration was not misplaced. How does it help? Because juggling is more than tossing balls in the air. It's about balance, just like life. Sometimes, we drop a ball, but that doesn't stop the performance. Charles nodded slowly, feeling the weight of Jake's words settle in his heart. More than a clever comment, it felt like part of an earnest philosophy. A spark of trust ignited within him, a willingness to explore the mystery surrounding the stranger. Maybe you could share your tricks with us during the picnic activities? He offered tentatively. Jake grinned. I'd love that. The more laughter, the better. With that, the trio moved to set up. Together, They strung up games, set out tables laden with vibrant snacks, and shifted their focus toward the growing crowd that invited both joy and laughter. Charles constantly glanced at Jake, measuring the stranger's mannerisms, and found a sense of reassurance as Ethan absorbed every moment like a sponge. As the picnic unfolded, families moved freely, laughter rippled, the aroma of home-cooked treats wafted through the air, and a transformation gripped the space, a community returning to life, one smile at a time. Charlie marveled at the sight of neighbors chatting and kids buzzing with excitement. There were no titles of wealth or class divisions here. The bonds of shared joy melted away those barriers. When the time for games arrived, Ethan darted off to participate in the first juggling lesson with Jake. Charles watched from a distance, feeling proud as he witnessed Jake teaching the kids. He couldn't shake the tension completely, but maybe trusting in the bond they were creating could outweigh his fears. "Dad!" Ethan's voice cut through, beaming with triumph. "I did it. I'm juggling like him." Charles's heart soared. He rushed over to join in on the fun. When it was his turn, Charles felt the ball in his hands and didn't hesitate, he tossed it into the air. Suddenly, all his fears seeped away. He caught it, threw again, and soon found himself juggling alongside Ethan, laughter erupting around them as they both dropped a ball or two just for the joy of it all. The spontaneous laughter and cheers filled the air, binding them in ways he had long missed. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Charles stood slightly apart, taking in the scene. Families mingled, kids played, and everyone seemed to let their guards down. It was a beautiful mess, a portrait of community thriving. "Well," Maria said suddenly, popping beside him with a beaming smile. "What do you think? For the first time in a long while, it feels like we belong somewhere," he admitted, the truth wrapping around his heart like a warm blanket. "What brought you here was always in you, Charles," she whispered softly as she glanced over to see Ethan immersed in Jake's teaching. "You've done the work, and now you're seeing how beautiful this can be. You shine when you're with him." The affectionate look in her eyes stirred something within him. Suddenly, he knew he wanted to share this life with not just Ethan but with Maria, Jake, and everyone else alive in this vibrant community. As the festivities began to wind down, Jake approached, his demeanor relaxed and inviting. "Good job today, Charles. You've made quite the impact." "You too, Jake. You've helped my son find joy," Charles said, the sincerity grounded in every word. "You know," Jake said, looking him straight in the eye. "People often forget that joy and connection open doors. Just like juggling, it takes practice. I could use more practice in both," he chuckled, easing some of the tension that had weaved itself into his heart over the weeks. "How do we keep this going?" Jake nodded, as if he'd been waiting for the question all day. "By staying present. Take each interaction as it comes. Allow the simple moments of joy to guide you." Charles absorbed his words, feeling the dawn of understanding creeping in. It wasn't just about the people he'd come to admire, it was about allowing those moments to fill his heart with hope. That evening, as they packed things up, Charles felt a surge of gratitude for the power of connection. "We should do this again," he suggested, turning to Ethan. "Next weekend." Ethan suggested excitedly. Maria stepped forward, placing a hand on Charles's arm. "And don't forget, Charles. For every new adventure that awaits, you're not alone. You've built this family, and it keeps expanding." As they left the community center, bags filled with laughter and the promise of new beginnings, Charles took a deep breath and finally embraced the possibility of what lay ahead: a renewed bond with his son, new relationships, and a community vibrant with life and resilience. And then, for the first time, he realized something profound: his past didn't have to define his future. Joy, like juggling, was a delicate act of balance, demanding trust, courage, and heart, and he was ready to juggle it all. Life, after all, was about the connections they fostered, the laughter shared, and the kindness offered creatively and wholeheartedly. As they made their way home, Charles realized the adventure had only just begun. Now is the time for action. If you felt inspired by this journey, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will fill your heart. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the magic alive. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. Your voice matters. And remember, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second. Only true fans understand the importance of rating and sharing. We would love to have you with us, so let us keep the community growing.